The blessing of encouragement.
Yes, please.
The disciples were discussing how the truth is a primordial duty, ranking above all other normal duties. When Philip stated that no one should withhold consolation under the pretext of keeping things real, and perhaps because Andrew reminded them about the truthfulness with which the Master attended to the widest variety of life's problems, the Lord began the following story. There was once a devoted head of a family who bravely struggled to gather enough resources to support his home. After enjoying a long period of abundance, overnight he found himself poor and deserted by his best friends because of an enormous business disaster. The unfortunate man was unable to withstand the blow that the world had dealt his spirit, and he died a few days later, eaten away by unspeakable sorrow. Left to fend for herself, the brave widow dried her tears at the feet of her 6 young children and gathered them around their old table. She could see that they looked completely overcome by sadness and discouragement. Surrounded by so many tears and woes, the woman thought and thought. And then she went into a room and came back with a small wooden box that had been cautiously locked, and spoke to her kids with a tone of certainty. My children, we are not really in such dire straits. In this coffer is a valuable treasure that your foresightful father left for you. It contains enough wealth to bring happiness to us all. However, the largest savings account in the world disappear if they aren't nourished in the fount of honest and productive work. It may be true that your father left us heavily in debt when he was laid to rest, but shouldn't we try to regain our precious legacy through hard work? Let's use our time to improve our lot. And if you would agree with me, we will open the box at a later time unless the demand of daily bread becomes unbearable. A bright smile of happiness and comfort appeared on all their faces. No one disagreed with the mother's suggestion. The following day, the six youngsters courageously got busy making use of a large piece of rented farmland. They zealously planted wheat in an impressive act of collaboration. With such a demonstration of devotion, the family had paid all their debts in 6 years and had acquired an enormous piece of land in the country. Their father's name was once again crowned with the honor and good fortune it deserved. When they had accumulated far more assets than had been lost by their father, one particular night they met with their mother in order to find out what was in the box. The old woman very carefully brought them the coffer, smiled happily, and opened it without much effort. Much to her children's amazement, inside the box, there was only an old parchment with the beautiful words of Solomon on it. A wise son makes his father glad, but a foolish son makes his mother sad. The treasures of ungodliness can never be enjoyed, but righteousness delivers us from dying in evil. The Lord does not allow the righteous soul to go hungry. However, he rejects the harvest of the unrighteous. He who works with a deceptive hand becomes poor, but the hand of the industrious enriches them for all eternity. The youngsters looked at each other with unspeakable happiness and gave thanks for the unforgettable lesson that their loving mother had given them. The master fell silent at the look of his disciples' contentment and wonder, and after a short pause, he concluded sententiously, "Who would label this great woman as being deceitful? We might say yes, yes, or no, no during the dire predicaments of life, but we should never despise the blessing of encouragement in the edifying battles of each day. The tender bud is the promise of the fruit. Under the pretext of lighting the lamp of truth, let no one douse the candle of hope."
Okay, thanks, Philip. So the title of this passage is The Blessing of Encouragement. But it starts with a discussion about the truth. The disciples are discussing the value of being truthful. Philip suggests they should not withhold consolation under the pretext of keeping things real. And Andrew reminded the truthfulness in which the master attended all his teachings, basically, of all life's problems, keeping things real. And no one will deny that the value of truth. The truth is a primordial duty. We all agree with that. Know the truth, and it will liberate you. It will free you. Words of Jesus. The eighth commandment of the first revelation says that thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. Telling about do not lie. And in all the philosophical studies, puts the truth as a foundation for all ethical systems. I doubt and I challenge anyone to find any philosophy, dignified philosophy, who will not put truth as a essential fundamental for ethics and for moral also. But then comes Jesus and put a spin in the situation over here and presented a beautiful case of a widow becomes widow in a very difficult situation with 6 kids, found her kids in turmoil, emotional turmoil, and need to come out with an idea, with a solution, come out with a little lie or a big lie, presented a box, and suggested that inside that box there was a treasure that could mitigate all their needs. But it was her idea that they should not open that box unless was absolutely necessary, and they should go hard at work to pay all the debts that the father had left behind and build their own life with their own hands. Amazing enough, in my personal opinion, the kids liked or accepted the suggestion of the mother. I think it starts for us to think, who amongst us would say that, oh, you have a treasure inside that box that could alleviate our pain, but we're going to keep over there, we're going to work hard for it, to alleviate our pain with the sweat of our brow. Who amongst us would not say, come on, don't do that. If you have all this treasure inside that box, let's use it now. We need it now, right? So that comes the first lesson, in my personal opinion, that In order to dignify ourselves, we need to work. The work is what dignifies the human being, you know, to each one according to its work, right? So that is the first big lesson in the story. And they go at work and they are able to revert the situation. They are able to pay all the debts and on top of that build a life of tremendous comfort, having property even beyond what the father have left to them. And then the mother revealed that inside that box there was no true material wealth, but there was a wealth that was much powerful because it is a prize, a wealth of the soul, the ones that is unperishable, the ones that always stay with us, which is the value of hard work to build our destiny to the sweat of our brow. A wise son makes his father glad, but a foolish son makes his mother sad. The treasures of ungodliness can never be enjoyed, but righteousness deliver us from dying in evil. The Lord does not allow the righteous soul to go hungry. However, he rejects the harvest of the unrighteous. He who works with deceptive hand becomes poor, but the hand of the industrious enriches them for all eternity. And Jesus asked, who would say that this woman was deceitful? And he answers himself, saying, we might say yes, well, she lied. Or others will say, no, that was okay. And then come to the title of this chapter is the blessing of encouragement. When he says, we can say whatever you want to say. You can say yes, you can say no. But we should never despise the blessing of encouragement in the edifying battles of each day. The tender bud is the promise of the fruit under the pretext of lighting the lamp of truth. Lets no one douse the candle of hope. The value of this lesson, beyond the value of work, in relationship to truth, is that we need to be careful not to use the truth as a blade to slash the hope of people, as a blade to slash the pride of individuals, to bring individuals down. There are circumstances in our lives in which we need to bend a little bit the rules. Some say that the rules are meant to be broken, right? But using the intelligence of the heart, there are situations in which you need to deviate a little bit of what the rule says. The rule says do not lie, and that's good. But there will be situations in our life in which we can truly justify deviating a little bit. And unfortunately, some individuals are extremely strict and they cannot bend a little bit. And they commit the error of using the truth to kill hope, to hurt someone, to put themselves above others, using what would be the truth. And that makes truth a bad thing. And in other circumstances, like in this particular one, in which a little lie is valuable, it's good, it's accepted. So the lesson is there is an exception to all the rules. There are situations in our lives in which to break that one particular rule is except in accordance to the circumstances. Something as simple as if you're carrying someone who is about to die in your car and you need to get this person to a hospital immediately, and you go through a red light. Well, you broke the rule. Make sure there was no car coming, you not create an accident and kill more people than the one who is dying in your car already. That's not be good, but you broke the rule for a dignified reason. Let's pick an example here. I've been invited to go to a party, and I'm going to take my wife. We are both in the house. Of course, I get ready and I'm waiting for her, as always, right? She comes down and says, "How do I look?" And I'll say, "Well, I think you are overdressed. It's an afternoon party outdoors, and you are really dressed as if you're going to an evening gala event." Or the other way around. And she will. This is a matter of opinion, right? But there is a truth in it. It is indeed an afternoon outdoors party, and we should be dressing as you're going to an afternoon barbecue, so to say, and not as if you're going to a gala event in the evening, right? You may agree or disagree, that's a different story. But I tell the truth, and I think that is helpful to tell the truth in that case. Now, another situation is we invited this to a party, but I am work, I cannot go with her, so I let her go first. She goes to work and she goes to the party, and I will meet her there. And I leave work, I go to the party, and I meet her there, and she asks me, "How do I look?" And regardless what I think, it's I look great, as always. I may think that she is overdressed or underdressed. There is not a appropriate garment for that kind of parties. But now it's too late. She cannot change. She cannot make anything different. If I say that she's inappropriate dressed, that's just gonna ruin her. I'm gonna make her feel bad and feel embarrassed. It's gonna do no good to the situation. So it's simple. Like, yeah, you feel great. You look great. Everything's fine. Even though I don't think that she's dressed appropriate for the occasion. In that situation, I don't think the truth would be helpful. On the contrary, it would be one of those blades that we use to ruin people, to offend, to embarrass. And who needs to do that? Truth was not created for them. For that reason. So to be intelligent, but with the intelligence of the heart, putting others above you. I have to tell the truth. Well, are the others, is your neighbor, is your loved one ready for that truth? What will the truth do to them and not to you? What will be the consequences of telling the truth at that moment? To them, not to you. It's an exercise of charity in many occasions, and especially to never destroy hope from anyone. In my work, many times we have cases that is terminal, type of brain cancers that we know there is no present cure, and you know that will continue to progress. But individuals would come to me, I want to do this, and then what do you think? Should I die? Yeah, say yes, go ahead. Try this, try that. You never know what's going to happen. Knowing that well, that at least statistically, or what we know so far in our science, it would be kind of futile. But if the individual has hope that propels him to move forward in a good action, yes, go ahead and do it. I would not say, no, it's futile. You're going to die in 6 months anyway. Why would I say something like that? There would be the killing of hope. There would be to hurt people. Would perhaps stimulate suicide, perhaps even. So we need to be intelligent, and with the intelligence of the heart that put the receiver first, not you as the sender. How will the receiver receive it? What will be the consequences of that? And make sure that if it is in order to encourage, to stimulate hope, to stimulate work, if you will deviate from the rules from time to time, it's totally acceptable and even the right thing to do. Any comments, any questions?
I have a comment. Elmo, hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I think this is such an incredible message, and I think you've positioned so clearly, Elmo. I think it's so much about discernment. And the way you explained it made it much clearer to me, at least, that it's really not simple to discern what to say, when to say it. And the message is so kind to position. It's yes, it might not be easy, but always uh, remember to encourage people, and that may help us with discernment when it's difficult to make a decision whether to be what we may consider completely honest or deviate the truth. I still think that I'm not sure I would agree that it is a lie or that we are deviating the truth exactly. I think it's really discerning what is the right thing there. Some people may interpret that we are deviating from the rule, but I'm not sure in this particular example, especially that there was a lie. Maybe there was some level of omission or interpretation, creative interpretation approach. But I'm not sure there was exactly a lie. And I think in many situations, as you've explained some of them, I'm not sure you were exactly lying at all, or or somebody even crossing the red light, if that would be breaking the rule, considering the situation. So, but it is true that most human beings, not to say all, struggle discerning uh, what is right and wrong, especially under difficult circumstances. But if we were, and I've seen a few messages in many of the books we read together that encourage us to think, what would Jesus do? And so many times Jesus would put love and charity above all, regardless of whatever rules are being interpreted at that moment, and or even the consequences. So many times, right? He put himself in so much danger to put charity and love above any kind of interpretation of a rule that was in place. So discernment, I think it remains a challenging thing. But the other thing you also mentioned and it's so powerful in this message is about work. I think you said, what was it? The work is what dignifies the man, something like that. And it is um, so powerful as well, and it's so loud in the discourse these days about well, poverty always being there, jobs becoming to some extent more complicated to understand with AI. I wouldn't say more scarce, but possibly yes. We don't know. But and there's a discussion of what are we going to do when there are no more jobs, or we can try universal. What is it that they say? Some kind of a support system of paying people some level of living. But still, it's not just about surviving. It's also about dignified work. Even if you don't have to pay your bills, you still want to work. You still want to feel useful. You still want a sense of purpose, or if not, a sense of serving, which is also so much around the messages we read in these books. It's not even about uh, paying the bills in the end of the month. It's not only just about feeling useful and dignified as having a job, but also being able to serve others will perhaps come back if we don't have to pay the bills, or if the government's paying our bills, or if AI is taking our jobs, which I don't think it's all going to be truth, or if not ever, at least not in the short term, perhaps. But still, can we remember with all these encouragements to serve, to be kind? I really love the message of today, and I think the message of tomorrow is aligned as well for Monday, which is really about encouraging others to have discernment of being kind and serving, and so really really great messages. Thank you for also positioning with great examples, because it helped me to go much deeper on the study of today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's also just comments in regard to truth. Jesus put very clearly what you just said regarding the truth, right? Who would label this great woman as being deceitful? We might say yes, yes. Some will say yeah, she lied, or no, no. So I'm not gonna see this as a lie. If one wants to be objectively, one would agree there was a lie, because inside of that box, there was nothing that could pay the bills, that could pay the debts that they had, that could put bread in their table. But was truthful, because inside of that little box, and personally, I think she put it over there. There was this wonderful passage of Solomon that bring us the true value of hard work, honest work. And that is, again, as I said, the kind of treasure. There is a treasure for the soul. There is an imperishable treasure, right? The ones that is for the spirit, but may not feed the physical body. So one say yes, yes, or no, no. But regardless of it, we have to make sure that we should never despise the blessing of encouragement in the edifying battles of each day. Even if you go slightly outside of the rules, if you break the rules here and there, if it's what to encourage individuals to work honestly, doing good. Another thing that is spoke about, and that's very important, that you have to differentiate for us work from job. You have a job, you do something in exchange for something else. work for salary. And work that we are saying over here is in accordance to the definition of the Spirit's book and the law of labor, which labor or work is any useful activity. And useful activity meaning something that produces something good to someone else, even if it's for ourselves. So we all need to work. May not everyone needs to have a job, but the work dignifies us. Jesus said, right? To each one according to its work. To each one according to what each one has done. So it comes upon that we retire, that we don't need to punch a card anymore. They're not going to get a paycheck at the end of the month. Doesn't mean they're not working, right? Because we're going to define work here, any useful activity in accordance with the law of labor that you see in the Spirit's book. And that never stops. And I think the next, especially chapter 20, will put more light in this definition of labor or work in accordance to the Spirit's book. Okay, any more comments, questions? We go to 19.
Shall I?
Yes, please, Philip, 19.
The recipe for happiness. Thaddeus, one of the most passionate speakers during the gospel services at Peter's house, was enthusiastically discussing the rules for human happiness and was speaking out against the Roman conquerors and the rabbis of the Sanhedrin. In the grips of such obvious rebelliousness, he spoke at great length about the discord and suffering that reigned among the people, placing the blame on the political shortcomings of the time. After he had expounded several valuable opinions on the subject, Jesus asked him, Thaddeus, what is your idea of happiness? Lord, happiness is peace for all. Christ displayed a meaningful expression on his face, and he offered, Yes, Thaddeus, I'm aware of that. However, I would like to know what would make you personally truly happy. With a certain amount of hesitation, the disciple replied, Master, I think I would experience supreme tranquility if others could understand me. For that to happen, I wish that those close to me wouldn't disdain my noble and pure intentions. I know that I make a lot of mistakes because I'm human, but I would be happy if those who are part of my life would acknowledge my sincere intentions of doing the right thing. I would experience blessed joy if I could trust others and receive from them the fair consideration that I feel I deserve because of my high ideals. I long for everyone's respect so that I can work with no hindrances. I would be delighted to slander if slander were to forget about me. I live hoping for cordiality from others, and I think the world would be a paradise if people who tread the same path would treat each other with the same respect with which I myself would like to be treated. Indifference and malicious lies wound my heart. I believe that sarcasm and suspicion were invented by the spirits of darkness to torment people. Ungodliness is like bile when directed at me. Cruelty is a phantom of pain when it comes out to meet me. Because of all of this, I would be happy if my family members, close friends, and fellow citizens would regard me not for what I appear to be due to the imperfections of my body, but rather for the amount of goodwill that I believe I have in my soul. Most of all, Lord, I would be extremely happy if all those with me on life's journey would grant me the right to freely experience my own kind of personal happiness, as long as I abide by the code of the good in the field of my conscience, without irony and irreverent criticism. In short, Master, with the blessed recourse of suffering and time, I would like to be understood, respected, and held in esteem by others, even though I may not yet be the model of perfection that heaven would like me to be. The disciples stopped talking and displayed an obvious curiosity about what Christ would say about the matter. Some of his companions expected the heavenly friend to make a long speech, but the master fixed his crystal clear eyes on the disciple and said frankly yet kindly, Thaddeus, if you desire happiness and contentment from the entire world, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If everyone would follow that rule, we would very quickly spread the glories of heaven across the earth.
Thank you, Philip. The very, very short chapter. In my personal opinion, perhaps the most powerful lesson that we had read so far in this book, and I doubt it will be matched by any other lesson. It starts showing to us something that is very common. We can see now here throughout the ages and very strongly present today nowadays that we are always looking someone to blame for whatever is happening that is not of good. No, we have our special picks that are always picking on as they're responsible for the bad that happens in the world, and we blame the politics and politicians. We blame the big companies, the billionaire and trillionaire companies in this world. We blame our bosses. We blame our colleagues at work. We blame our teachers for not teaching well. That's why I failed my test. And we always find someone else to point a finger to avoid pointing it at ourselves. And in the beginning of this short passage, it keeps clear that at that time there was what's happening as today. It was the Romans' fault. It was there was in charge of the religious, the rabbis, and this Sanhedrin, but always external to us. That's the problem that we have very, very commonly. And Jesus asked to Thaddeus, who was giving the big speech, what is happening? And the answer was very short. It's peace for all. I guess everybody will agree to that. And that is an easy way out, but Jesus is too smart for us, right? I'm no easy way out here, my friend. I want you to tell me the meaningful what is happiness to you personally. What makes you truly happy? And I guess that Deus got, excited with the opportunity to put out all this long speech and what everything he said. I think everyone will agree. We all want to be respected. We all want to be valued for what we are, even with our shortcomings, with our difficulties. We all want the people that see that when we do make a mistake and drop the ball, it's not really out of evil, but it's just a mistake. But what? Because we always have the good intentions and want to be seen by our good intentions and not by the mistakes we created. And I don't think anyone would disagree. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very long speech that he puts out of what would make Tadeusz happy, and I think that would bring happiness to most of us. I would like to receive everything that Tadeusz wants to receive from outside to inside to me, right? To be respect, to receive indulgence from others, to receive benevolence from others. And the truth is that Jesus does not disagree. When was his time to say something? He didn't oppose to anything that Tadeusz said, or at least did not present in this book, and I don't think he would. But the value, and to me, the most valuable lessons is that the true happiness is to give to others all those things that he spoke that he wants to receive. See, during his Tadeusz speech, everything was coming to him. I want to be respected. I want it to come to me. I want the indulgence to come to me. I want the forgiveness to come to me. I want the benevolence to come to me. I want all this to come to me. And Jesus, not disagreeing with him, said, well, but true happiness is to provide to others all those things. The true happiness is to give all those things that you want to receive. In the prayer of Francis of Assisi, it is giving that you receive. And I was thinking about that. If I'm giving those things, it is because I have. And if I have, I don't need to receive because I already have. So in reality, God creating us of his image, we have those things. We have the benevolence. We have the indulgence. We have the respect to give to others. We have the forgiveness. We have all this because we are created in the image of God. So therefore, we don't need to receive those. We want, of course. But when you put that out, when you give the indulgence, the respect, the benevolence, the forgiveness, we are making ourselves truly happy because we are expressing the God within us. And that is the true source of happiness. It is a very, very short message, but I think it's extremely benevolent, hopeful to all of us. Without charity, there is no salvation. It is the flagship of Spiritism. And charity is the giving of ourselves, the giving to others. And we're going to see that on chapter 20, that it's all about what we are saying here now again. And we see here how each lesson is independent, but there is a carryover, right? We just said that it is charity to not tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, to withhold piece of truth, or even to put a little light over there that does not deceive, that does not offend, that does not cause any harm, to encourage, to propel individuals to work, to give or to sustain hope of others. It's charity, it's benevolence. And here Jesus comes again, reinforce what, well, I'm sorry, Spiritism reinforces Jesus, not the other way around. Without charity, there is no salvation. That if we live with the illusion that happiness is what comes to us, we are making a mistake because we're receiving what we already have. But happiness is to be able to pull out our potentials, to express the God within us, the indulgence, the forgiveness, the respect to others, the benevolence, the existentialism, whatever we are able to do to others is what can bring tremendous amount of happiness to us. Very, very short reading, but extremely, extremely deep, and something that is for us to really keep in mind and think continuously. They're doing all the complaining of the big CEOs, the politics and the politicians, the bosses, the colleagues, the teachers, perhaps counterproductive. If they are doing bad or not doing the good that they could, they need to adjust themselves to the divine laws of justice that never fails. Let us not waste our time and our potential in putting blaming others, in complaining, in rebelliousness. Let's put out what is the best within us. And that will be the greatest source of happiness, and will bring all the happiness that will transform this planet in something much better, that perhaps you'll be able to start complaining about the politicians and the big CEOs if each one of us will do our part. If everyone would follow that rule, would very quickly spread the glories of heaven across the earth. I think that's what will propel the transformation of this planet from a planet of suffering to a planet of regeneration. But we need to do our part and stop complaining that the others are not doing theirs. Any comments, any questions? Okay, so we go to the last one.
Chapter 20, Secret Charity. The conversation at Peter's house on this particular night was about practicing the good, and everyone was taking part. How can you show compassion if you don't have any money? How can you encourage benevolence if you have no financial resources? Great names of material wealth have cited with regard to these questions, and the majority of those present were inclined to believe that only the powerful on earth were capable of stimulating acts of mercy, when the master interrupted, kind-heartedly offering his opinion. A man who was truly devoted to the law was exhorted by heavenly resolutions to perform acts of beneficence. However, he lived in extreme poverty, and there was no way whatsoever for him to deduct even the smallest amount from his pay to help others. So, Whenever possible, he gave of himself with kind words and personal gestures of comfort and encouragement to all those who were going through pain and hardship. But it saddened his heart that he was unable to provide coats and bread to the ragged and starving people alongside the road where he lived. Surrounded by small children, he was a slave to the home that was watered with his sweat. Even so, he realized that if he couldn't do any public charity, he could at least wage war against evil in all the circumstances of his earthly journey. This was how he began to pay continual attention to extinguishing all the inferior thoughts that were suggested to him. Whenever he came in contact with people who liked to speak ill of others, he would politely leave, and when responding to any sort of direct inquiry about someone, he would remember this and that small virtue of the absent victim. If someone was easily angered in his presence, he would consider the anger an illness that needed treatment, and he would quietly withdraw. Insults for others beat down on his spirit like stones on a honey barrel, because, besides not striking back, he treated the offender with his usual fraternity. Slander found no access to his soul, such that any kind of obscene accusation was lost without effect in his great silence. Whenever he saw threats against someone's peace of mind, he tried humbly to undo the clouds of misunderstanding before they gathered into a storm. If some type of condemning statement was prancing around his neighbor, he would spontaneously do everything he could to defend the person tactfully and inauspiciously. His zeal against the incursion and the spread of evil was so highly detailed that he would even remove debris and stones from public roads so that they would not pose a danger to pedestrians. Having adopted these guidelines, he reached the end of his human journey. Unable to attend to the world's suggestions for beneficence, he had never been able to offer a bowl of soup or a woolen coat to his neighbors in need. This was his situation when death brought him before the divine tribunal, where the humble servant appeared apprehensive and despondent. He was dreading the judgment of the heavenly authorities, when suddenly he was crowned with a brilliant diadem. When he tearfully asked the reason for this unexpected reward, he was told that the sublime recompense was due to his triumphant position in the war against evil, in which he had made himself an invaluable worker. The master looked at his disciples with a piercing, calm gaze and concluded in a friendly tone, "We can't hand out bread and blankets. We can light the lamp of ignorance, and we can strengthen fraternity by wiping out discord. But let's not ignore the daily, methodical, and serene battle against evil, convinced that in this holy struggle, we will win the divine crown of secret charity."
Thank you. Again, I'm always looking at titles, because the titles, especially in this book, tells us what is the message of Christ when it comes with this, makes up those little stories to tell us. We understand charity, and according to Jesus, as being benevolence, forgiveness, and indulgence. Benevolence is the giving of something, and you can divide the benevolence in two parts. One we'll call the assistencialism, to assist with the necessities of physical life, providing shelter, providing food, providing clothes, providing medications, providing medical care, anything that deals with sustaining physical life, or we'd call it assistencialism. And it's a big, important part of benevolence. But benevolence goes beyond that. It's the giving of the non-material things, right? It's the giving of ourselves. It's the giving support. It's the giving education. It's to give a smile. It's to not killing hope. It's to provide hope, to stimulate hope. It's to provide opportunity to work, even if not for a salary, but to do something good, because that's what dignifies us. You see, you can tie all those things together that we just have read here. So this giving, being material or material, is benevolence. The forgiveness, of course, is to provide the opportunity we ought to be with a free mind, a free conscience, and liberate the individuals from guilty. That's what you're giving to others. Naturally, forgiving, we always say, is something that we give to ourselves. It's to liberate ourselves from a moment of difficulty caused by someone else. But it's also that we give to others, to tell them, don't worry about me. Go on in your life, From my side, you owe me nothing good. That is something that we give to others in the state of forgiveness, although forgiveness is primarily to ourselves. And indulgence, to be reasonable with the difficulties of others, to be understanding that each one of us has our path and the speed to which we are progressing. That none all of us was exposed to the same things like we being exposed to all of this here now. Others are not being exposed to it. And being indulgent with those difficulties, with those limitations of others. These three things combined is charity. And if you go back to the gospel in accordance with Spiritism, it says the gospel is the big umbrella that encompasses all the virtues. Because in order to do all this that I just spoke about, one must be selfless. One must be proud, because if you're proud for it, it becomes extremely difficult, if not impossible, to forgive, to have indulgence. If you're selfish, how can you practice benevolence? And pride and selfishness, going back again to the gospel according to the Spiritism, are the two cancers of all souls. And Jesus used secret charity, the hidden one. Because the big ones, the ones that the disciples was talking about, the ones that are easily visible and recognized, that comes from those who have the money, those who have the power, the potential to provide, and is easily seen, which is also good. We're not gonna say that the rich, the powerful, are not able to practice charity in its full essence, as we just spoke. Yes, they are, but they have the money and the power doesn't take away from them the possibility of being fully charitable as well. They do have the potential of giving assistencialism much greater than the majority of us. And when we in truth with ourselves does not have the potential of practice existentialism, like in the case of this man who was sent here to be benevolent, but understood benevolence as the disciples were discussing, now limiting the whole benevolence as in pure existentialism, was not able to provide soup, bread, clothes, but was extremely charitable, was extremely indulgent. When on his circles there was individuals talking badly about someone else, or he would leave, or he would find good things to say about that same individual. Because no one is purely good or purely bad. All of us have our goods and our bads, and he always stress the good in people. He'll do what he could, not only to avoid evil for himself, but for others as well, in all his actions. And of course, individuals who act like that kind of are different, are truly different. If at a workplace or at school and you have 6, 7 people talking and then they start to speaking negatively against someone, you get up to leave, they find you weirdo. If you take the word to say good things about that individual, they will find you even more weirdo. And you may have those who will vibrate and negative energies towards you because we are not like them. We're not, you don't have that affinity with them, but you're fully protected. Your actions, your intentions protect you. So you see that in his case, these landers, they think nothing will affect him. As if you're throwing stones at him and nothing would reach him. Because he was fully protected from the good work that he was doing. His mind have no time, no space to negative thoughts, to react negative towards what anything because he was continually busy in doing good, in trying to prevent evil in accordance to his ability at all times. So there was no room left to negativity. So you'd not receive those negative energies. Anything and what anyone would try to do against him. Could speak about bad about him. Yeah, people can. Would not affect him at all. Once when Francisco Xavier was questioned, why did he defend himself? And so when people put those ridiculous lies about him, saying that he was no holding on money that was supposed to go to charity, that he was a fake, he was not a real medium, and all kinds of ridiculous things. They would say he would never, ever defend himself at all. And some would see that as being a coward. But he was asked once, and his answer, why don't you defend yourself? And he said he didn't feel any need to do it. So if what people say about him was the truth, how can he defend himself against the truth? There is no defense against the truth. If it was not truth, it was a lie. He was too busy to waste time with lies. So when we have that clean conscience that you are doing your best, that you are serving on the good purpose of Jesus Christ, following Jesus to the best of your abilities, you just don't have room in your mind for negativity. They want to speak bad about you. It's their waste their time. I'm not going to waste mine. Right? There is that protection that is given, that we receive by doing the good that we can. And this secret charity is indeed what transforms our planet in the next stage that we are soon to get into. It is this secret charity, the ones that are not seen with the physical eyes, that transforms the planet slowly. Because that's the ones that individuals will learn from us when we practice it. That will make them feel good about themselves, the way that we feel good about ourselves when we are able to put these things in practice. And there is a guaranteed reward for it. Again, I'm going back to work, because we worked continuously with discipline in practicing good. And to practice good is the only way that we prevent, that is, seek to extinguish evil. To sit and complain, back to Tadeus, and see the evil the others are practicing is counterproductive. But working in goodness, doing this secret charity or even assistencialism, being indulgent, being benevolent, being forgiving, is what balances out all the negative currents of evil and overpower evil, because love prevails always, is what indeed will transform this planet into something that we all want to have. So we can hand out bread and blankets. We can light the lamp of ignorance. We can light the lamp of ignorance, and we can strengthen fraternity by weeping out the discord. But let's not ignore the daily, methodical, and serene battle against evil. Convinced that in this holy struggle, we win the divine crown of secret charity. In the daily activities, in the daily effort, in resisting to act in a still not so noble tendencies that we have, being careful, taking 5 seconds to think before we act, taking 5 seconds before say what we want to say, because the first thing that comes to your mind was, is that the right time? Should I put this out now? Again, as Anna said, how would Jesus proceed if he was in this situation that I am right now? Like this little bit daily activities and what we do every day, when in the traffic, when you are driving, when people are doing things that we know that is not ethical and happens all the time. If you take mass transit, what people are doing inside the subways and things, how can we cooperate in combating evil? First within ourselves, first we have to put the mask on ourselves, and then put on our children around us, and then go ahead and speak if it's proper, if it's safe, if it's good, or just sending out a prayer. In many instances, that's all that we can do, because we need to be safe as well. or what can we do in our daily lives, not going out there and spreading bread and blankets, but routine daily inside of the home with our spouses, with our children, with the neighbor. How can we work in this battle against evil, first within ourselves and then around us? This is the secret, Charity, and this is what will indeed transform us, and by transforming us, we transform our neighborhood. If we transform our neighborhood, we transform the city, and if we transform the city, we transform this planet. And it's happening. Even if when you look around and check the news, sometimes you kind of doubt it. And we have plenty of time here yet, but there are the 3 lessons for the day. I'm not going to go into the 4th one today, because we're reading 3 lessons every Sunday. Is there any questions, any comment? Okay. All right, so no comment. We're going to close the meeting for today. And Carol, could you give us the last prayer, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much for today's lesson, Elmo. Thank you for hosting. Thank you, Philip, for reading. And thank you, everyone, for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the book Jesus in the Home, chapter 18, 19, and 20, the blessings of encouragement, the recipe for happiness, and the secret charity. Truthfulness and truth are primordial duties. May hope and encouragement prevail during challenging circumstances and problems during life's unfoldings. Work and endeavoring are the keys to lessons of dignity and success, which is the wealth of the soul. Truth should not kill hope. We should use the intelligence of the heart to do the right thing through discernment. We can ask, what would Jesus do? Or apply the golden rule in activities of the world and in our daily interactions. This is the profound message of true happiness. Offer the best that is within you and within me, with hope and the benevolence of giving, as we move away from pride and selfishness. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center SGNY and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth and remind ourselves now to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.